Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month was first declared by President Ronald Reagan on October the 15th, 1988. On that day, he said, "When a child loses their parent, they are called an orphan. When a spouse loses their partner, they are called a widow or widower. However, when parents lose their child, there isn't a word to describe them. Therefore, I, Ronald Reagan, President of the United States of America, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. I call upon the people of the United States to observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities." Friends, today we gather virtually for the annual We Remember Honoring Pregnancy and Infant Loss Memorial Service. I am Chaplain Adam Ruiz, Mother-Baby Chaplain at Norton Women's and Children's Hospital. On behalf of Norton Healthcare, all the chaplains and staff, and the We Remember Committee, Kate Davidson, Greg Schlentz, and Philip Garrett, we are happy that you could join us as we honor the lives of all the little ones who left us too soon. In the last 2 years, we all have had to limit gatherings, activities, and celebrations due to COVID-19. Sporting events, weddings, birthday celebrations, graduation ceremonies, births, deaths, and other important moments of life have had to be canceled, postponed, or severely limited. We too have been impacted by COVID. Last year's event was canceled, and this year we are doing this celebration virtually. Therefore, it is more important than ever to be here today, to gather as family, friends, and as a community to remember and honor pregnancy and infant loss. This year, our program will include a mother's story of love and loss. Chaplain Greg Schlentz will do a reflection for us on the meaning of life in the midst of sorrow. And the names of all the babies will appear on the screen during the ceremony. Chaplain Kate Davidson will do a blessing. And finally, Chaplain Philip Garrett will give us some parting words. Every single day in the United States, 2,000 women lose a baby to pregnancy or infant loss. That's 700,000 a year, a quarter of all females in this country. When it comes to pregnancy and infant loss, there's often a lot of support at the beginning of the journey, when people become aware that a baby has died. But after a while, everyone goes on with their lives, except the parents who have experienced the loss. Soon, perhaps, there's no one there to talk to about your baby. There's no one to whom you can tell your story. Our annual event is meant to remember and honor you, your family, and above all, your baby. Your baby deserves to be remembered and honored. Your baby is still a part of your family, and they have their place in your family's life. And that's why we are here, and we will be here every year. We will not forget, and together with you, we will always remember. Each year, between 600 and 1,000 people participate in the We Remember event. Given this amazing level of interest going forward, we will be looking for parents and other interested people to join the We Remember Committee. The committee will be our partners in planning and implementing the annual event. Our contact information is on the We Remember website. You can contact me or any of the chaplains if you are interested in joining the committee. And now Stacy Fingar, a mother who's experienced a loss, will share her story with us. Thank you again for joining us.
My story is a story that this world wouldn't classify as having a happy ending. It's a beautiful story, a story full of tears, love, miracles, strength, and God. It's a story that has grown me, challenged me, overwhelmed me, broke my heart, and gave me hope. And it's let me see God at work through it all. It's a story of a 1 pound, 14-ounce little girl that has touched more lives in her 19 days of life than I've touched in my entire life. It's a story of faith, grace, believing, a prayer, anxiety, and fear. A story of a mother's love for her sweet, precious little one. It's a story that has changed me, one where God has shown me that you don't have to know everything, have a large platform to speak from, or even know the Bible inside and out. He can use the smallest of things to make a huge impact for His kingdom and His glory, and you just have to be willing to let Him do it. My prayer is that my story, that though it's not your story, will give you some encouragement and bring you comfort that only God can provide. From even before I knew I was pregnant, I knew that God would, if He ever blessed me with another kid, that He would be teaching me about faith. And so the second that the strip turned positive, my heart leapt with joy, and my prayers had been answered, and I knew that the teaching moments would follow soon. August 18th, 2016 was my 20-week anatomy scan. Chris, my husband, and I were excited to find out if the baby was just going to be a boy or a girl, and we did not expect anything to be wrong. Within 10 seconds of the ultrasound, though, I watched the tech's face show concern, and she said, "You have no amniotic fluid." She rushed out of the room to get my doctor, and then within an hour, I sat in a hospital bed, admitted for the night, and they were going to try to get fluids in me to see if that would help. My mind was racing, and my emotions were overdrive. The next day, I got to go home on a limited activity basis, and they just said to call if I experienced any leaking of fluid or pain. August 25th is the day that marks where my journey took a drastic change, and God gave me only one option: to have faith in Him. So I was craving some strawberries and yogurt, so I ran up to Kroger's really quick, and during that trip, I felt fluid leaking twice. So I rushed home to tell my husband, Chris, and we called the doctor. And then within 30 minutes, I was back in triage at Norton's, and I was scared to death that I was going to lose my baby. My fears were confirmed. My water had broke at 21 weeks. I remember the tears flowing down my cheeks as the triage doctor went through risk after risk after risk. I was admitted into the hospital on complete bed rest with the hopes of keeping me pregnant as long as possible, and the ultimate goal was 34 weeks. Over the next 4 weeks, my life was turned upside down. I went from giving hugs and goodnight kisses to my 2 kids at home to just a few minutes of FaceTime each night, and only getting the hugs and kisses on the weekends. Chris got thrown into Mr. Mom instantly, and it was phone calls of teaching him how to fix hair and what outfit to wear for school that day. It was the first time that I felt that I had to choose one child over my other 2 children. My heart was breaking for missing my family at home, and it was worrying so much about the little one that was inside of me. It was endless discussions with doctors, by myself, on how and all the risk involved in the survival percentages. It was sitting in a hospital room, alone, tears streaming down my face as I prayed. On the night of September 22nd, when the antepartum nurses were doing just their routine monitoring of Isabella's heartbeats, they continually had trouble keeping a signal on her. And so all of a sudden, Teresa, my nurse that had been with me during the whole day, who was staying with me just during the monitoring process, I noticed that she began to move like a lot faster. She started ripping cords from the walls and from machines, and she was unlocking the hospital bed locks. And the next thing I know, I felt like I was in the middle of a Grey's Anatomy episode, because I had 3 nurses pushing my bed down the hall at an alarming rate to labor and delivery. They were eventually able to find Isabella's heartbeat again, and that night it was full of the nurses coming in my room, turning the lights on, and moving me around trying to get Isabella's heartbeat back because she was laying on her umbilical cord. So it was a night of very little sleep and a lot of growing anxiety. At 2:30 p.m. the next day, on September 23rd, they lost her heartbeat again, and this time they couldn't get it back. I was surrounded by a full team of nurses, and as they pushed me out of the room to prepare me for an emergency C-section, I just shouted to my mom and dad who were there, "Just pray, just pray." So Isabella Faith was born 4 minutes later at 25 weeks, 3 days gestation. I woke up in a recovery room with my mom and my dad by my side. The mom on the other side of the curtain was holding her crying baby and comforting it. And I remember just laying there sobbing because at that moment I had no idea if my little girl was even alive or not. And she indeed was here, and she was with me for 19 days before I ended up losing her. Because her lungs were so underdeveloped due to my water breaking so early, they had to give her steroids. And a risk of giving her steroids was that it could cause a spontaneous perforation in her intestinal walls. And that's exactly what happened to Isabella. A week later, she needed surgery, so we had to be transported to Norton's Children's Hospital in downtown Louisville. And they first tried the less invasive route by putting in a shunt, but it just seemed after that, with each passing day, Isabella got sicker and sicker, and she did not tolerate ventilator adjustments well at all. About 5 days with the shunt in is when they decided that they did need to do surgery, in fact, to repair her intestinal wall. The next morning, as Chris and I were surrounded by family in the waiting room, Isabella underwent surgery. An hour later, the surgeon came out and said that Isabella did as good as she could have done and that the next 24 hours were critical. I gave him a quick hug and started praising God. I stayed with Isabella that night, as I typically did. They had a parent room that was just down the hall, and about 10:20 p.m. that night, just 30 minutes after I had said goodnight to her, the night charge nurse, Katie, she came running into my room and said, "Stacy, come quick." My heart dropped, and I began running at full speed down the hall, and I turned the corner to Isabella's room just to see about 20 nurses and doctors had surrounded my little girl's bed. They had a black plastic chair waiting for me. It was positioned so I could see through the frantic workers and just see my lifeless little girl laying there. I collapsed into the chair and outstretched my arms, and I began begging God to save her. 2 nurses, they knelt down beside me and prayed with me, and they put their arms around me. And Katie asked if I wanted to go up to her, and I quickly said no. I didn't want the doctors to give up. I didn't want to get in the way, and I just wanted my little girl to be okay. And so I knew if I had to go up to that bed, I knew exactly what it meant. Katie continued to whisper what they were doing, the medicines they were using, the measures that they were taking trying to save her. And through tears, I desperately prayed to Jesus. I prayed like I never had prayed before. I'd heard of these stories of this kind of praying, and I was always thankful that I never had been in a situation to personally experience it. But now here I was, my heart ached. I remember rocking in my chair and just repeating over and over, "Jesus, save her, show me yourself, show me your glory." And then Katie knelt down again and put her arm around my shoulder and said, "Stacy, it's time for you to go up to her." Her voice was more definitive now. There was no longer an option. And I knew in that moment my little one's race was over. I walked slowly to her side and I whispered that I loved her and told her to go be with Jesus. The night of October 12th was the first and last time I got to hold my little girl. The next several weeks, the why questions kept coming. Why didn't he save her? Why did it have to be my baby? I did everything right. I prayed, I remained faithful, I believed in Jesus, so why did I lose her? Why me? Why her? It was just questions of why. And these questions, they consumed me in a haunting way. Every thought, every prayer was a question to God. And though I kept asking the same things, I never stopped talking to God, and I'm so thankful for that. One day when I was driving in my car and crying out to God for what seemed like the 1,000th time, it hit me. I'm trying to understand the why, but what I must get to is accepting this as part of my story. My prayers took a turn of explaining the why to helping me accept and overcome this tragic part of my life story. And then God led me to 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 3 through 4. It says, "All praise to God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. God is our merciful Father and the source of all comfort. He comforts us in all of our troubles so that we can comfort others. And when they are troubled, we will be able to give them the same comfort that God has given us." And from these verses, I accepted this part of my story and clearly saw my purpose. So now I continue on with Isabella in my heart and use my ministry, Faith Through Isabella Faith, to honor her purpose-filled life. I've walked along many moms in the NICU, but it's the moms that have lost their babies that I can minister to in a way that many cannot understand. I may not know exactly how they feel, but I can relate to the hurt and the pain it causes, the emptiness it leaves, and the yearning that their heart will hold forever. And though I don't fully understand why Isabella had to be one of the babies who didn't make it, by accepting my purpose through it, I'm able to give God the glory in my and Isabella's testimony. I can continually remind moms like you to lean into Jesus even if you are mad at him. He is a God of grace and mercy, and he allows us to ask questions, and he provides comfort and a peace that no one else in this world can offer. You probably will never understand the loss, but accepting it gives you a freedom to see past the hurt. It's not saying that you don't want your baby here with you, because I do every day. I wish Isabella was with me every day. But it does invite God into the process with you and lead you through it. I guarantee at some point, God will use your pain to help someone else. And that in that moment, you will show Jesus' love, and a piece of your broken heart will be mended and you will gain purpose. Today, I pray for whoever hears this, that you feel his presence in your life, sending you lots of love.
I hope for each of you on this day of remembrance and the days ahead, that in your time of struggle, you will find moments of calm. In the darkness, you will see light. In the midst of despair, you will hope. Through the tears, a smile may brighten your face. In the pain, you may be strengthened. In the brokenness, you will experience healing. Within the storm, you will experience peace. In the void, you will find love. The Old Testament book of Lamentations is a book of lament, meaning to cry, to weep, howl, wail, and mourn, expressions of pain with which you may be all too familiar. We hear the heart of the author in chapter 3, verses 17 through 26, with words that could easily be yours. I gave up on life altogether. I forgot what the good life is like. I said to myself, this is it. I'm finished. God is a lost cause. I'll never forget the trouble, the utter lostness, the taste of ashes, the poison I've swallowed. I remember it all. Oh, how I remember the feeling of hitting the bottom. But there's one more thing I remember. And remembering it, I keep a grip on hope. God's loyal love couldn't have run out. God's merciful love couldn't have dried up. They're created new every morning. You'll never forget the reality of your loss. But my hope is that love and mercy will find a way into your life, into your heart, each and every day, through God, through nature, through someone close to you, or maybe even someone who today is a stranger. The world may never notice if a rosebud doesn't bloom, or even pause to wonder if the petals fall too soon. But every life that ever forms, or even comes to be, touches the world in some small way for all eternity. The little ones we long for were swiftly here and gone, but the love that was then planted is a light that still shines on. And though our arms are empty, our hearts know what to do. Every beating of my heart says, I remember you.
raindrops like lemon drops, high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, and the dreams that you did to, oh why can't well, I see trees of green and red roses too. I'll watch them bloom for me and you.
Remember, by Rabbi Karen D. Cater. We are compelled to remember. Today we cannot escape our mortality. We ask that mortality become our teacher. Uncertainty teaches us humility. Ambiguity tempers our arrogance. And in the yielding to life's great mystery, we attain a measure of wisdom. Every morning that we are granted another day of life, we are invited to the miracle of awakening. We are invited to awaken to the beauty of the universe, to awaken to possibility and abundance, to be awake to the daily miracles that are so terribly obvious and to which we are so often oblivious. We must not sleep. Let us accept the invitation to awaken our minds and spirits to the life that we have been granted, however small, however imperfect, however short. Let our sorrow teach us compassion. Let our tears compel us to ease the pain of another. Let our sense of mortality make our lives stand for something great. When we love our neighbor, we transcend. When we love the stranger, we transcend. When we remove the obstacle before the blind, we transcend. When we pursue peace, we transcend. When we hold the world as a vessel of grace, we transcend. And behold, it is our bodies that enable us to walk through the world with hands that heal and arms that embrace and minds curious for understanding and solutions. We walk through this world with eyes that see possibility, and ears that hear the voice of another, and mouths that speak with benevolence. It is our physical nature that gives us the potential to enlighten and love and care. This is how we make life better, safer, stronger. There is power in righteous acts. Compassion is the antidote for despair. Hope allows us to reach eternity. How powerful is the obligation to remember our dead? And how powerful do we become when we sustain moments of vulnerability, when we linger in fragility? How powerful is the human spirit that longs for meaning and purpose, that seeks to touch the edge of the sky? How powerful is the experience of transcendence? And faith? My flesh and my heart fail, but God is my heart's strength and my lot forever. There is little more than this. One precious life where love is legacy and kindness is redemptive and creativity is immortality and memory is sacred. May you discover your power in vulnerability. May you learn compassion in sorrow. May each of you live each day of this precious life with love.
In the words of Sophia Lyons Ross, we gather and we remember in reverence before the wonder of life, the wonder of this moment, the wonder of being together so close and yet so far apart, each hidden in our own secret chamber, each listening, each trying to speak, yet none fully understanding, none fully understood. We gather in reverence before all intangible things that eyes see not, nor ears can detect, that hands can never touch, that space cannot hold, and time cannot measure. Today has been an important yet feeble attempt to put words to your loss. Honoring the life of your child, honoring the dreams and hopes you had for your child, honoring the name that you gave your child, honoring your personal pain and suffering, honoring your heartache, honoring your life and family as you are forever changed by this loss. We will always remember. Sometimes the best way for you to remember may be to help others like you along the way. You have the opportunity to engage in this work of love by your simple donation to keep the event funded for next year. You also have the opportunity to volunteer your time or voice in planning, shaping, and moving this event forward into 2022. But mostly, thank you so much for your presence here today, and thanks to all of those who have made this event possible. As we close our time together today, I ask you to place your hands over your heart. Your child's name is written there and is also written in the stars. Speak the name out loud now. Say, "You matter to me. You are loved. You are valued. I will always remember you." Even though the physical body is no longer present to hug, cradle, or caress, the Spirit now lives inside you as pure love and can never be taken away. May the source of all comfort bring deep peace in the midst of your memories and grief. And may you never forget, because we can never forget. We will always remember. Peace be with you.